a powerful conversation on how digital environments impact children with dyslexia. We're going to explore both the risks and the empowering potential of tech when used in a mindful way. We unpack screen time, assistive tech, communication challenges, and online safety through the lens of dyslexia. Okay, today's guest is someone whose experience spans decades in the world of education and learning support with over 23 years, right? 23 years of hands-on expertise. She has dedicated her career to empowering children with dyslexia and other learning differences. She's a dyslexia specialist, a learning support professional, and currently she's pursuing her PhD in dyslexia, early dyslexia identification. She works with learners, she supports and empowers teachers and families, but really a true advocate for neurodivergent brilliance. Welcome to Beyond the Box. It's so nice to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm really so honored to be here with you today.
Yeah, thank you. For both, for some of you at home who don't know, we have here Yolanda 𝐂𝐚𝐧'𝐭, who has been very generous as part of our quarterly celebrating neurodiversity event. So she has been empowering parents and educators alike with really hands-on practical strategies on how they can support their children as they go through the schooling system. So we are really honored to have you here, Yolanda. So I'm going to go straight into my first question for you. Maybe to start off our conversation, what exactly drew you to the world of dyslexia? Was there a defining moment?
Absolutely. My journey with dyslexia is very personal. I was unidentified for 39 years of my life, and I was diagnosed with dyslexia.
For 39 years?
Yes. So I went through the whole school system. I had to try and study. I did my honors degree. But the moment when I started my master's degree, when I was 25 years old, it was just too much content. I couldn't cope with it. And I gave up because it was really very difficult for me. And then my daughter was born. And when she was in grade R, we also started experiencing difficulties with her. And they wanted to fail her. They wanted to hold her back because she really struggled with basic phonics. And I just didn't see any benefit in letting her repeat. So we started with assessments, and it was one assessment after the other assessment, speech therapy, occupational therapy. And eventually in grade 3, she was diagnosed with dyslexia. And the moment when she was diagnosed with dyslexia, our lives changed. I also received the correct help for my own unidentified dyslexia for all these years. So I started my master's degree and I completed it with cum laude after being not able to read anything for so many years.
Wow. So you are such an achiever. As you can hear at home, I think you have been, if you've been following our episodes quite closely, you can hear there's amazing strengths in neurodiversity. So as you can hear, somebody who's doing a master's, even beyond a master's, as I've mentioned in the introduction, that you're doing your PhD.
Yes.
So that whole journey of being dyslexic and only finding out much later in life while you have your honors and pursuing your master's degree, and thanks to your daughter who helped you discover this this journey essentially.
Absolutely. And for the first time in my life, I actually just understood myself, and I know that there was nothing wrong with me. Where I always felt like that I'm not clever, and life is so difficult for me. I don't know how other people do it. And now all of a sudden I know, because I understand dyslexia and I know how to process information. I know that there's nothing that I can not conquer. I only need to pay intentional focus, and I need to use the techniques that I've learned to master reading.
Absolutely. And I can't help but think of you going through that journey as a young person through schooling system without a diagnosis on all those emotions of what's going on with me, right? Just by yourself, because it wasn't known much back then.
No, absolutely not. And also, like, my journey included like a lot of anxiety. I had social difficulties. I had undiagnosed ADHD as well. So everything contributed, and I really just like felt that I don't belong in this world because it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, sure. As you can hear, it can feel very lonely, but you're about to hear a beautiful and successful story on how, despite the challenges, she basically went far and beyond what many people are able to achieve. You know, having experiencing those challenges, or despite those challenges. But Yolanda, over the years, what have you seen as far as the evolution of the understanding of dyslexia? Has it changed or still the same?
I think that there was a change, but it can be better. So recent research also claims that 80% of children with dyslexia leave their school with unidentified dyslexia, and that is a big concern. So that means that these children are struggling for 13 years in a school environment with unidentified dyslexia, and they don't get the support that they need. And this complicates their futures because, like, they need to go to university, they need to set up like a life for themselves. So a lot of the time, because dyslexia have like advanced ability to be able to just like put coping mechanisms in place, these individuals start their own businesses, they become entrepreneurs, or they will do something that is very practical because that is part of the brain. You are gifted in certain things. It's difficult to process, but there's definitely so much potential to be able to excel.
Ah, that is so nice. And actually, I just realized now as you're speaking that I think we didn't tell our audience what dyslexia is. And for those tuning in who might be new to this, who might be new to the word dyslexia, what is it? How can you enlighten them for us?
Dyslexia is a processing difficulty, and it's actually such a big part of the neurodiverse brain. So, processing affects everything that you see, that you hear, that you say, and that you write. So, it's a processing difficulty, and that is why these children sometimes they don't understand what they read. They struggle to make sentences. They struggle to put their thoughts on paper. They also just like struggle. They want to say something, but they can't get the right word. So they're like, will like stutter, and they're like, oh, just give up. I'm not going to work through this. I'm just going to like, no, it's fine. I'm not going to share the information with you. So the biggest challenge is processing. Yes, it got to do with like reading, but it's so much bigger than just reading and reversing your B and your D's.
Sure. From a learner's perspective, Yolanda, because you are an education specialist, and more than that, obviously, we will talk about your PhD and your journey with your daughter. What would you say dyslexia feels like from the learner's perspective, a learner at school experiencing dyslexia? What does that journey look like?
It's very difficult for a child with dyslexia, especially if they do not receive the right support or if they don't have the understanding from their teachers. So these children are very frustrated. They know that they can do the things, they know that they have the ability, but they're so frustrated because they don't understand why they are like struggling with basic tasks. So everyone in class is just like flourishing. They get the instruction and they go and excel. They just like know how to spell, they know how to learn, they know how to do all the basic tasks in a standardized system. So these children know that they are different. They know that there's something wrong with them. And because they don't fit in, they tend to feel that I'm not clever. I don't deserve like being like here in class. They start struggling with anxiety and their self-esteem. And then also they're really working very hard because these children do want to excel. They do want to learn. They do want to become the best that they can. But the results never ever match the effort that they are putting into the system. So it's a very disheartening journey,
Yeah.
and they know that they do not belong.
And I can imagine as a young person going through that, your child at home going through that, it can be quite lonely, as you have had Yolanda unpack it. Because as she said, what's wrong with me? I want to do more. I've spent the whole night or 4 hours studying to practice just to say these words or just to answer these questions, but I'm not able to. That can be really depressing for a child.
Absolutely. And the scariest thing for me is when I work, a lot of the times, when I work with children that is in grade 6 or grade 7, they want to start diagnose these children with mood disorders because these children really have very high anxiety. They start getting depression because they not coming right with school. And the reason for that is the brain has not been supported. All these years, they've been in the educational system, but they never received the correct support to be able to support them so that they can excel in a standardized system.
Interesting. I mean, you're bringing a new concept that I haven't actually thought about, that they could potentially be diagnosed with a mood disorder.
Yes.
I mean, that's another element now. It's another complexity to the situation. Can you unpack for the parents at home just a little bit around that?
Absolutely. So anxiety is part of the brain because they're so aware of their difficulties, their challenges, and they can't understand what is happening. So whenever there is a test situation, whenever there is a new situation, they have extreme anxiety. So now also, besides anxiety, these children have a lot of frustrations. So when they are at school, they mask. They have to mask because they know they can't tell the teachers that, you know what, I'm struggling. I didn't get this instruction. I didn't do my work. I had no capacity. I missed everything that you gave me. I missed it. I was like daydreaming. So now when these children go home, they have outbursts, they have frustrations, they have tantrums, and very often they will have unacceptable behavior at home. Sometimes they will, for example, shout at their parents, or they will just like slam doors. It never ever comes from a place of bad intention. It's coming from a place where these children are really struggling. So, in a perfect world, if these children had the ability to communicate, they will be able to say, you know what, mom, you know what, dad, today was really very hard for me. I really struggled to process all this information, but they don't have that ability. So, their behavior becomes their communication.
Absolutely. I was going to touch on that because that's exactly what it is. It's a form of communication, slamming doors and maybe shouting and all of those. But as you parents at home, you have had, so it's a way essentially to kind of express their frustrations as you've had. You may see behavior that's not necessarily accepted in society, in a neurotypical society, but that's a way that your child is really trying to scream that I need help.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's move on now to the some of the misconceptions that the people generally have about dyslexic people that are dyslexic.
But there's so many misconceptions.
Yeah.
The first one is always that dyslexia is only a reversal of a B and a D. And
Okay.
then the moment when a child reverses a B and a D, they usually give them like a guideline. So the first one is a B and the second one is a D. So what you are doing, you are correcting the BD reversal, but you miss the dyslexia. So now the child stopped doing the BD reversals because you gave them a visual. So with dyslexia, you need a visual to be able to link to information so that you can do the linking. So now you solved the reversal, and now this child continues in a system with unidentified dyslexia. So having a BD reversal is not normal. It is one of your first markers for dyslexia. One of the other, or many of the other misconceptions as well, is that these children do not read enough. They are lazy. They are not working hard enough. And also the biggest one is like, but the child can read, so they can't have dyslexia. But the issue is, yes, these children learn to link the letters. So when they read, they start linking the letters. A is a B is a B. So when they read, they actually just verbalize and they link the information as they read, but they do not process. So when they've read a whole page, they get to the bottom. What did you read? I have no idea. I was just like decoding. And that is the issue with dyslexia.
Because there's nothing to link what they're reading
Yes,
to.
they're just linking the sounds and they are not processing or understanding what they are reading. So I have children, sometimes they read beautiful with intonation, they pause at all their punctuation, and then like the teacher's like, no, it's impossible for this child to have like dyslexia. But at the end of the day, it's a coping mechanism that the child put in place so that they can master reading, but they still don't process what they are reading.
Interesting. This is loaded, and I don't know if we have time to hear more, because this is educational for you at home, whether you're a parent or an educator. Really, there's some important insights that you're getting from a scientist. So these are scientific facts that have been proven and actually been found that,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yes.
yeah. Do you want to add another one? Another misconception?
Misconceptions as well. The biggest challenge again with the neurodiverse brain is whenever there was a diagnosis that was picked up. So let's say, for example, a child was diagnosed with ADHD. They put pharmaceutical intervention in place, and they expect the child to be functional because intervention is in place. But now the child is not functional. So every single time when the parents are concerned, the school will go and, but remember your child got ADHD. Yes, you do have ADHD. We do have intervention in place, but the child is still not functional. So the moment when you identify any barrier to learning in the neurodiverse brain, you put intervention in place. We want the child to be functional. If the child is not functional, we have to go back to the brain and we have to go and see, but are there not maybe other barriers to learning that was missed? Because diagnosis doesn't usually come in isolation. It is usually a combination, and it is very important to have a holistic approach to the child and not just like focus on one diagnosis at a time.
Interesting, because I know the South African government, through the Department of Basic Education, I understand they've got all these learning interventions. So you'd hear a child saying, I'm attending maths or intervention or something like that after school because maybe I've got learning disability, but there's never been an actual official diagnosis. So my question is, has now the Department of Education put in place some system to say, yes, we have students in the intervention class. Yes, we have somebody helping them understand the concepts better. But over and above that, we are going to do an assessment. Is that something that's a norm to make sure that there's more than just this child's struggle with dyscalculia or understanding numbers?
Yes, there are a lot of systemic barriers in place as well when we work with education. So, the general approach in education is the child needs to fail to be able to receive the help. So, the moment when a child receives 51%, the child passes. And then the teachers are not concerned because the child passes. So, now the department and the policies also stipulates that you need to have an official diagnosis to be able to get specific concessions or specific support, which makes it very complex because not all the parents have the financial means to be able to go for assessment, to go and get an official diagnosis. So these children are unidentified. If they pass, they don't get any support. So it's only the focus that are on the failures. But when we work with a neurodiverse brain, the brain do have a capacity to deal with a certain amount of information. So you might have a lot of neurodiverse diagnoses. At the moment when you're in grade 6 or in grade 7, the information is just like too much. And then all of a sudden, these children start failing. But now, once again, they've been in a system for 6-7 years with unidentified barriers to learning. And now, all of a sudden, they fail. So these children, it is very, very damaging for their self-esteem and for their human development. And school is very difficult for them. So now they start becoming like defiance because defiance is also a way to
Communicate.
to avoid a situation that is really very difficult for me. So even like if you look, for example, at concessions, policy shows that you need a formal diagnosis to be able to get
That's correct.
concessions. And these children, they need their concessions. The department do not have the capacity to be able to assess all the children that struggle. So only the parents that do have the financial means to take the children for private assessments and private support, only those children are getting the support that they need. So now we also have an inclusive education system, but now we are not really inclusive because we do not support all the children with a barrier to learning. So even sometimes I work with children and I can see that they have a reading difficulty. I can see that they have all the markers for dyslexia, but then the schools or the department do not want to support them because there's specific criteria and assessments that needs to be in place before they can support these children.
Sure. And that actually in itself, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of how it perpetuates inequality in access to education.
Absolutely, and it is so unfair because these children have the ability, they can, but it's systemic barriers that they face because they do not have the means to be able to be assessed.
Sure. Yeah. So as you can hear at home, that um, it's actually disheartening that that the system waits until these children fail for them to be considered for intervention, which is just not fair. We need to do better. If you look at all the efforts that have been put into improving the quality of basic education, even early childhood development in South Africa. I mean, I was looking at the budget recently that was approved. Education, I think, takes a big chunk of the national budget, right? Which is a lot. But then there are places where that budget should go. And one of those places is ensuring inclusive access to quality education at a basic level, right? And that includes with learners that are on the spectrum. Because if a child is crushed at grade 6 or grade 7, you can imagine what the future would look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think you've answered this one. What might dyslexia feel like from a learner's perspective? Could you maybe just tell us a little bit about your journey with dyslexia as a mom who's dyslexic, having raised a brilliant, amazing young girl who's also dyslexic? And we know there's some amazing academic performance that we're hearing. She's excelling in sports as well. So share with us about your journey as somebody who is dyslexic, who's also a mom to this amazing child.
I advocate for not just only my child, I advocate for each and every neurodiverse child. And I always believe that God gave me this child so that I can stand up and that I can be an advocate for children with neurodivergence barriers to learning. So even like with my own daughter, when she was like so many times assessed in her life, and they kept on missing the dyslexia. And when she was in grade 1, she was sent for another 𝐻𝐸𝐧'𝐭 assessment. And when I had the feedback, the psychologist told me that I need to lower my expectations of my child. They told me that my child did not have the intellectual ability to be able to cope in mainstream. And they told me that I need to put my child in a special school. And I just like what they told me about my child and how I know my child. And I just like that this does not add up. But I refused to just give up on her. I continued with all the interventions and everything that I could find.
Yeah.
After school, she had speech therapy, occupational therapy. She went for extra reading. I was sitting with her. We did like 3-dimensional word building. We were just busy all the time to just try and assist her. And eventually in grade 3, we got the dyslexia diagnosis, and I kept her in a mainstream school all the time. And since grade 4, she has been one of the top academic performance in a mainstream school. She's excelling with averages between like 85% up to 93%. She's a top performer with academic, with culture. She plays 5 music instruments. She also does sport. She's such a determinated human being, and she never ever gives up. She's very hard on herself. But then also as a mother and with my own daughter, we face systemic barriers as well. So because the educational system is not really geared for barriers to learning, we experienced discrimination against my child. She was excluded from the prefect selection at school because it was brought up that she sometimes struggled to speak, and this is something that was like very close to my heart because I know that she's one of the top performers at school. She does well with everything. They acknowledge her for leadership on her reports. They acknowledge her for leadership when they were like on camp. So my biggest concern is if my child that is a top performer in a mainstream school is facing systemic barriers, what about the children that are not as strong as my own child? What challenges do they face?
Wow, this is very loaded. I've picked up a lot of nuggets of knowledge and passion from what you were saying. So one of the first things I picked up is the level of involvement of a parent is critical, and especially early on in the success of the child.
Absolutely.
That's one thing that I've picked up. I've also picked up that sometimes we love our experts and we know they're very educated, they're very experienced, but sometimes they may not give information that's completely suitable for your child because they work with a diverse group of children or a diverse group of learners, and sometimes not intentionally, I would believe, they may label a child in a way that they shouldn't. If I'm thinking of how you were told your child won't do well in mainstream school, that you should find a special needs school for her and you must lower your expectations. Can you imagine? And listening now to how well she's actually a top performer at school. She's shown leadership skills. She's doing well in sports. And if the mom or you as a parent, a dad or a mom at home, you would listen to those and say, okay, I accept, then that's it for your child, right?
Yes,
you need
absolutely.
to fight on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I always say that whenever you are confused about your child, spend more time, put in the effort. You have to try and figure out what is the challenge, what am I dealing with? Because we just like need to support these children. Learning is something that is so diverse, and even as parents, we do not have all the knowledge to be able to support our children, and we rely on so many other people. We rely on professionals. We rely on teachers. And as you said, like that, a wrong diagnosis is never ever intentional mistake, because even like one of the assessments, when we just like arrived there was a huge dog, and my child was like, she got a fright. She was like 6 years old, and she didn't want to separate from me. And the whole report was about like the separation anxiety. My child didn't want to separate from me. So sometimes we only spend time with children for a limited amount of time, and we don't really understand like the context. So it's very important to have conversations with the parents, with the teachers. It's a holistic aspect that needs to be supported. You cannot just like judge a child on one isolated incident, on one thing that like happened. It is a holistic approach.
Absolutely. And I know you're speaking from experience, as we've mentioned, that she's got over 23 years as a learning support, but also a dyslexia expert. So she has created an environment, I know, right here in Cape Town, in a school where you are the parents' go-to person. Parents who are raising children on the spectrum, they choose the particular school because they know you are there. So, but again, I think we will get to a point where we unpack all of this. I don't know if we'll call it a triangle: the teacher, the parent, and the child, this whole support system. Maybe let's move on and talk about the digital landscape, the risks and the realities that exist in those spaces. What challenges do you think dyslexic learners typically face in these digital environments?
digital environments is an absolute safe space for these
Ah,
children. So when they work with technology, they receive the information in a way that their brain can actually process the information.
mhm.
So when we look at dyslexia, it is just a different way of processing information. It is a different part of the brain that activates when they need to process information. So when a child is only receiving information, the teacher is talking, they only can hear the teacher speak.
Mm.
But now when they in the digital world, a child with dyslexia needs to see and they needs to hear to be able to process the information.
Mm.
So they love technology because
Mm.
they can see, they can hear, they can process the information, and it becomes a safe space for them. So these children, they really love technology, but then also it is a way of avoiding the reality.
Ah.
Reality is very difficult for them
Mm.
because they cannot just like easily process the information.
Mm.
But when I am in the digital world, I can process everything. So I just want to spend more time with it. They
Mm.
learn much easier,
Mm.
and it becomes a safe space for
Sure.
them.
It's amazing that the technology can do so much good, and we are really thankful for being in a digital age because it means it actually breaks down the barriers as far as access is concerned.
Yeah.
But some parents would say that excessive or overusage of technology might affect the child's behavioral or cognitive development. What's your view on that?
I also believe that everything that is too much is also not good for them.
Mhm.
So these children escape in their screen time
Mm.
because it is a place where they belong. So it's also important to remember that these children feel that they do not belong in the reality
Mm.
because they are different. They
Yeah.
struggle with processing, they
Mm.
struggle with basic tasks. So because these children do not get acceptance in the real world,
Mm.
they become empaths. But now they love the digital world and they feel that they have the need to belong. So whenever they are in the digital world, they empaths and they just want to belong. So sometimes
Mm.
they don't have the understanding
Mm.
of safe boundaries. They
Uh-huh.
don't understand like what is good for me, what is not good for me.
Mm.
So sometimes they can do things without thinking about it and where they can put themselves at risk. But in a way, it's only an attempt to try and belong in the
Mm.
digital world.
Mm.
So we have to protect our children from that. So it's very important that children need to understand the boundaries
Mm.
and the risks involved with the digital world.
Mm.
We have to limit the screen time for them
Okay.
because the more time that they spend on their screens,
Mm.
the less they actually wants to be in the reality.
Mm.
So screen time and the digital world is amazing.
Mm.
Everything is like the dopamine
Yeah.
addiction.
Yeah.
I can swipe left and right and I have everything
And I'm
immediately
alone.
access to me.
Yeah.
And I can learn new things. I have access to everything.
Mm.
But now in the real world, I have to wait for my
Mm.
mom to come and help me with my notes.
Ah.
I have to like wait for everything and I don't have
Mm.
the patience. So
Mm.
the digital world is good for them, but it
Mhm.
needs to be managed and
Mm.
parents need to be involved to just
Mhm.
like help them to protect themselves and to limit the amount of screen
Yeah.
time.
And I can kind of sympathize. I love that, as you've heard from our expert, that it's important that we limit that screen time. It's like a dopamine, as you said, and a nice comfort zone for them, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
what are practical steps that parents can take? Because I'm imagining, I'm not imagining, I'm a mom and I've got teenagers, and sometimes after work I'm exhausted. And when my kids were younger, because now they're teenagers, I've come and I need to cook, I just throw the phone there. So it keeps them busy, and I cook, I finish, I dish, and now the phone again so they can go to sleep and I can have a relaxation because I'm so exhausted. You know, with the way the economy is going, a lot of parents are working overtime to just earn, to just make basic income, right? So what practical skills can you give to the parents as far as taking away the dependency of the screen time, um, you know, from the kids, being intentional about that, even as difficult as it can be.
Absolutely. I think it is very important to find a balance with it. So,
Mm.
um, without a doubt, these children just love the digital world.
Mm.
And I think it will help parents if they can use this to their advantage. So to use screen time as a reward system. So we need to balance reality and the digital world.
Mm.
So there are certain things that the children need to do. They need to learn, they need to do homework, they need to have chores at home,
Mm.
they need to do basic things, make up their beds, do specific tasks at home.
Mm.
So for me, it is always a way to balance those two worlds with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the approach that you use the screen time as a reward system, but then you need to have your responsibilities and fulfill your duties to be able to get screen time. So this also teaches the children that for every right that I do have, it comes with a responsibility.
Mm.
And that is the big lesson that we want to teach our children and that we want to equip them. So these children will do anything for screen time, but as parents, we have a responsibility to teach our children to become responsible adults one day.
Mm.
So I love the approach of like having responsibilities
Yeah.
and then reward them with
Yeah.
screen time.
Yeah.
So if the children do not do what they were expected to do, then there is like no screen time. So next time they're going to think twice, like,
Yeah.
no, I need to do this. I need to be responsible. I
Yeah.
need to do the right thing
Uh-huh.
because they really enjoy their screen time.
You had it right, using technology or a screen time as a reward. It sounds easy, but try it and see how it works for you and your family. So we're going to move on now to empowerment through technology, right? So how can technology actually empower learners with dyslexia?
Technology is amazing for these children. Even at schools, children that do have assessment accommodations. A while ago, we needed one individual, a human person, to be able to be a reader and a scribe for these children. So due to technology, we get computer programs. So the school can, for example, if they have 36 computers, they can accommodate 36 children with assessment accommodations in school. And they need a few people to supervise instead of having 36 humans to be able to support them. So when we work with technology, we don't need like the best apps and the most detailed things. A simple app that we can use or a tool is, for example, Word. If your child needs to make study notes, you have an option for text speech to text. So I activate it, I dictate, the computer types it for me. So the computer types whatever I say, and now I don't have to think about the spelling. I just need to think what I want to say. And then I can have the text to speech as well. So I can go and choose, okay, please read this back to me. So once again, as I said earlier, these children need to hear and they need to see the information so that they can process it correctly. So by using a computer to make their notes, they can see it, they can hear it, and they can understand. So it's a basic program that you can use to support learners like with dyslexia.
Sure, it's amazing. This doesn't even cost a lot. If you have a computer at home and you're a parent, and you need your child need help with homework or maybe reading or understanding a book, just use a computer, text to speech, as you've just had, right? And as teachers in the schooling environment, or you are policymakers, and you need to now make resources available, as you have had, it's much cheaper to use 36 computers as opposed to 36 scribes to support our learners on the spectrum, and particularly dyslexic learners. So that is such a practical thing that both the parents and the teachers can do.
Yes.
Thanks to technology.
Yes. And so easy.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like go and purchase a program. You don't need to go and design a specific dyslexic program and then make it available to everyone at the cost of with a monetary value. So most of the schools, they do have Word, and then you can just like find ways of implementing the support.
Wow. It helps to have an expert speaking to you, because now you're getting all this advice and all these insights that has really been tried and tested with over 23 years of experience. So you can count on the advice that you're getting and try it out and see how it works. And the other thing is, over and above the text to speech that parents can use with Word or any other application, are there particular apps, because most people now have cell phones or tablets or iPads, are there particular apps that could be added that parents can use at home?
There are apps available.
Mhm.
For example, Reading Eggs. Reading Eggs is an amazing program,
Mhm.
especially for the young ones, to try and help them with the linking of the sounds and the letters.
Ah,
So my personal approach is that these children already have too much screen time, and I love to bring in human connection. So
ah,
sometimes like that, parents just need to be present, and parents just need to prioritize that 10-15 minutes a day with their child. So even instead of going, I think we live in a society where we also like believe that I can buy something to fix a problem. So for every problem, I
that's
can buy
true.
something and then I can
Yeah,
just like fix it.
yeah, yeah.
And we need to hold on to the human connection. So even if we have parents that can just read to their child 10 minutes a day, the child, once again, they can see it, they hear their parent, they understand it, and then there's human connection again.
Yeah.
And then we limit the screen time.
Sure. And we had this, I think, for the past 2 days with Melissa and with also the radiographer. That human connection is important. As you had, we just cannot use material things to replace the human connection that our children need. And that's not going to cost you anything, spending your time with your child. And this advice, Yolanda, why I like this advice particularly is because it's not only going to benefit parents raising children on the spectrum, even the neurotypical children, they need parent time.
Absolutely.
Right? So we need to
Yes.
take the screen away. We need to make time for our children, like reading a book, as you've had. So nothing can replace the human connection. And so you have been on this journey for a while, right? There's no doubt. And you have been doing amazingly well. And what I do like about your story is that, it didn't just happen. You faced a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges before you can get to where you are now. What advice would you give to the parents, a single parent out there, or a teacher that's now embarking on this journey? Of providing support to a dyslexic child or dyslexic student?
I think the biggest concern is always that anything that is unknown is difficult for us to accept.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's easier to ignore the fact that my child might have dyslexia because it's easier to deal with that than actually working through the difficulty. So I really want to reach out to the parents that if the school raises a concern, trust them, allow them to guide you. There's so much hope. If you're not going to help your child, the struggle will continue. So even if you have a diagnosis in place and you don't have the right support and the help, your child is continuously going to struggle. So it's very important to equip yourself. I always say that any diagnosis is a gift because now I know what I have to do, what it entails. I know the difficulties and I know the strengths that goes with it. So see any barrier to learning as a gift of knowledge. Now I know how to support my child. So if I do not have a diagnosis, then either way I'm going to accept that my child struggles and my child can't do it, or I need to be open-minded and I there's a possibility of a barrier to learning. It's something tangible. There is support. There has been research for over 200 years in place of how to support dyslexia and what needs to be done. Yes, it's effort so that I can equip myself. I have to put in time to understand my child, understand the barrier to learning, and to know that how to support it. And even sometimes the schools do not have all the right information to be able to identify learners with barriers. So very often it's the parents. The parents will go to the school and say, like, you know what, something doesn't add up. I'm concerned because the parents see all the behavior at school. The children, the parents
At
see
home.
yes, at home.
Yeah.
So, for example, my journey as well. For a very long time, my child didn't want to go to school, and every single morning we were fighting, because then it is the egg is too hard, then I fix the problem. Then the egg is too soft, then I fix the problem. Then it's the shoes, then it's the socks. Every single day there was a issue for her, but it was her way of not going to school. Like, maybe mom will really see that I'm not okay, so I don't want to go to school. And then one day we were just like both in tears, and I had to drop her off at school. And when she came back, I had the discussion with her, and I said, Angel Pie, I really need you to be at school. I know it is difficult for you, but I need you to just give your best, and I will help you with whatever you need from me. And I gave her motivation. So I always say, when we work with a neurodiverse brain, bribery and corruption. And I told her that if you
bribery and corruption,
if you can go for mommy to school every day without troubling me every single morning, I will give you 10 rand. Every day that you do not trouble me. She never ever troubled me. She went to school. She tried. She came back. And the moment when I picked her up at school, she said, like, where's my 10 rand?
Very smart, very smart.
Yes.
Oh, it's amazing how you come up with these tools, with coping mechanism and solutions, which actually could become permanent solutions
And
to some extent.
And if you understand the neurodiverse brain, is very often these children, they can do the things, but it's difficult for them. So they just need the motivation. So I gave her the motivation to go to school because there was benefit in it. And I never ever struggled one day ever in my life to get her at school.
Sure. So parents, you need to learn a little bit more about, what could work with your child. It could be as easy as $10 to, nudge them a little bit towards the right direction. And as you can see, it definitely worked with her.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Move on. What does meaningful support at home look like for parents who are raising a child who's got dyslexia? In a digital world in particular.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So first of all, you need to be involved with your child. If you're not involved in your child, you're not going to understand like their world and their challenges. So even I made a deal with my daughter, and I told her like that, you know what, if there's anything that you ever feel like that you have to share with me, it doesn't matter what happened, is I will always try and support you. I will trust you, and I need you to be honest with me, because if you're not honest with me, I don't know how to support you. And a lot of times as parents as well, we try our best. There's no manual. So if a child, for example, does something wrong at school and they come home, immediately we react on it, but we don't understand where it is coming from. Sometimes we have all these class clowns. So it is the children, they just like, they're funny, they dominate, they just make fun all the time in class. And if you actually really look into that, it is their way of avoiding the reality. So you have to understand your child, and you have to trust. So that open communication needs to be there. So even if you support your child, we have to stay clear from the deficit approach. So we have to stop and saying, yes, but you didn't do this, you can't do that, you can't draw a line, you can't write, you can't spell, you didn't read. It's so easy to always just focus on the things that they can't do. And as parents, we have to change that narrative, and we have to rather like that, wow, I know this was difficult for you, but you did it. Well done.
Absolutely.
So even if they got like 3 out of 10 for their spelling test, the school will automatically show them, but like, there's 7 that you could not do. And then our approach need to be like, wow, this one was really tricky, but you got it. So we need to try to normalize barriers to learning. We need to normalize that, yes, these children struggle, but they just learn differently. It's a different part of the brain that activates. And I think if we can normalize it, that the children will feel that they belong. They will feel that they're being acknowledged for all the hard work that they put in, and they know that we as parents, that we really have their back and that we support them. So for parents, involvement is really very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add on to what our expert has just said, for you as a parent to really get involved, I think this is a point you mentioned earlier. Acceptance is very important, because if you don't accept that this is the situation, or this is the circumstances under which we find ourselves as a family, you would become inefficient in coming up with strategies and tools to support your child, as we mentioned earlier. So in addition to that, we may continue to operate or engage with the child from a deficit mindset, as you were saying.
Yes.
So acceptance is very important. Look at the great things that your child is able to do. And as you have heard from Yolanda, the school does its part, unfortunately, because it's still operating in a traditional sense, to say, sorry, out of the 10 things, you could only get 3. But as a parent at home, and even you as a teacher, you could say, this was quite challenging, I can see, but well done for getting the 3.
Absolutely. Yes, a positive approach at
Yeah.
all times.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now we're moving on to reflections and the hopes. What keeps you inspired after 2 decades in this space? What keeps you so vibrant? Because I can see when you talk about this topic, you come alive and your passion, I can see it. And I can only imagine the parents that you have had to work with on this journey, the parents that had to drop their child at school with you for X amount of hours, working with somebody with so much passion. And this is something I've known about you, when you're working at the school, and you still carry that. What kept you going for 2 decades?
I absolutely love what I do, and the biggest reason why I will never ever give up in my life is because I know what the right support can do. Because the right support changed my life, and it enabled me, and my dream was always that I need to become the person that I needed when I needed help for my daughter. So there's many parents being out there that was in the same situation with me. The one like me, the one assessment after the other, the one question that leads to another question, and then you don't know what to do. So because I know the value of the right support, I will never ever give up. And I experience it with my daughter as well. I remember the days when we just like had to put in all the efforts and all the therapies and everything that we had to do. She had like 5-6 hours of school, and then we had to do like another 5-6 hours of like intervention each and every day. And the moment when we got the right support, our therapies stopped. We stopped with running around from the one professional to the next one. We stopped with all the therapies, and for the first time in her life, she could be a child, and I could see that she was happy. And that is what the right intervention meant for us in our lives. So my biggest dream is that I can help parents, that I can help children, so that they can also experience like success for their children.
I know the value of what the right support can do, of what the right support can bring. And this is a lived experience of a dyslexic mom who has transformed or supported their child to become an amazing, exceptional young girl that they are. It's performing well, as we've mentioned, in school, in academic, in sports, and thanks to the effort that Yolanda has put in. But would you say, just as a follow-up from that, because it got me thinking, would you say it's easier to support a child who's on the spectrum if you yourself are on the spectrum as a parent, or not necessarily?
That is an amazing thing that you touched on.
Yeah.
So many times when I work with the parents as well, neurodivergence is neurobiological, so it is in the family. And a lot of the times, these parents were never ever diagnosed, so they have no idea, but they have all these coping mechanisms and strategies in place. So what the parents do is whatever worked for them, they apply the same concept to their children. So now, once again, now we have a parent and we have a child that is like undiagnosed, but the child somehow do receive the right support. But the moment when they realize, but you know what, I never knew that I was like on the spectrum. I never knew I had like dyslexia. It just like gives so much peace. For the first time in your life, you have like a different kind of acceptance, like that. That's why I'm like that. That is like why I've been behaving like that. That is why I struggled with it. So it is a whole new world that gets opened up for you the moment when you have the right knowledge and you understand everything.
So that's why we hear most parents are going on almost like some kind of a self-discovery journey with their child as they go through these assessments, helping their child, and they're realizing, oh, that's me actually, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you hope parents can walk away from this very insightful and practical conversation that we're having? What do you hope they can walk away with? What should be their takeaway?
I really just want to inspire parents that the moment when there's a barrier to learning, it is not a death sentence. It's not the end of your child. A special school is not the ultimate outcome. There is hope. The neurodiverse brain is absolutely amazing if you understand it.
Yeah.
Yes, there are like difficulties that goes with it, but there are so many strengths that you can use to be able to support the difficulties. So if I can just like give parents hope, if you receive a diagnosis and yes, it is like your life is going to change,
Yeah.
but for the best. Be positive about it. Enjoy the journey and enjoy the uniqueness of your
Difference.
child. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, life is boring when we're all the same, right? So that's the same with the brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In closing, I am very grateful for this chat today, Yolanda. It's been so insightful. I am learning alongside you at home some of the things that I'm hearing. Obviously, it's not every day that you have an expert sharing practical strategies with you that you could try at home. And I would like you to engage your child with this question. What part of your day felt the easiest on your brain? And which part of your day felt a little bit more trickier as far as what your brain could manage? So you might just learn something beautiful in how your child think. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please like, subscribe, and follow. And I'm going to encourage you to continue tuning in because we have more experts, more parents that you can relate to, parents that you can learn from that will be joining us. And I would like Yolanda to share with the parents at home, how can they get hold of you? You have an organization that you run, you support parents, you support teachers, you also support children themselves. Can you share some details as to how parents can get in touch with you? Do you provide online or digital or Zoom support? Do you operate across the country or are you just in Cape Town? Please talk to the guests.
Okay, so I really have
Is it
a
sitting?
big dream of just like supporting as many parents and children that has been in the same situation where I am. So I do have a website, www.dyslexiaspecialist.co.za, and I'm so fortunate in the field of dyslexia that I can assist and I can assess children online. So even if you are like on the other side of South Africa, I can still assist you. And even sometimes children do get like diagnosis of a SLD, specific learning disorder, and it is dyslexia, but they do not provide the correct intervention or how to address the processing. Then I can have a consultation with the parents to explain to them what exactly dyslexia is, how to support it, and what your child needs. So I also have a very big heart for teacher training. I try and train as many teachers as I can because they are the first professionals that your child is going to work with. And if a teacher do not have the knowledge, they will not be able to identify your child. So I always believe that if I can get hold of the teachers and I can give the teachers the right knowledge, I can give them the guidelines and the support, that they will be able to identify these children. Because if they're not identified, we are not able to actually like help them with their difficulties. So I really have a big heart. My intention is always just like to help parents, to help teachers, because I really do know the difference it will make in your life.
Yeah, I'm almost wanting to ask you to address the policymakers out there because I can only imagine if you didn't put the effort you put and you didn't have the resources you had to support Diana, literally our country is poorer when we are not able to utilize all of our intellectual capacity, like the one you have helped uncover through the support that you had to pay for, which not everybody have access to. So if Diana's potential was kept pressed or suppressed. And there's many people like her, many young people. What does that actually mean for the country?
That is a big concern for the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
So if we do not help these children, they have so much potential. If you look at Richard Branson, if you look at Jamie Oliver, Leonardo DiCaprio, there are like so many people in history. Those days we didn't know that they had dyslexia, but like now we know. But look at what they have done. So we are actually destroying our own futures by not equipping these children. So it is very important for policymakers to adjust the policies when a child needs support, whether they fail or whether they have 60% or 80%. If they have a barrier to learning, we have to support these children, because at the end of the day, the ultimate aim is not to just get the whole South Africa to get through the education system. Because like then the children that are really very clever, we can tell them like, you know what, you an overachiever.
Yeah.
Don't get 90s, don't get 95, just get 50. So it's the same approach. We need to make sure that we support each and every child to reach their optimal potential.
Absolutely.
Because each and every child was created with a purpose and with a dream, and we have to help these children to become who they were meant to be. So if you were meant to be an engineer and you have dyslexia, you are possibly at risk of failing grade 1, you're never ever going to achieve your optimal potential, because the damage of not giving these children the support are really extremely damaging. So we have to change the way that we look at education. We have to support wherever there is a need. And also we need to make it more accessible for these children to be like assessed. And we have to even like change the system. So there's so many systemic barriers in place that limits these children from getting the support that they need. And it really needs to address so that South Africa can become like a well-achieved, developed nation.
Absolutely. And utilizing all of our people, all of our intellectual power that we have available within the different neurotypes, essentially. Yeah, so please do follow Yolanda. She has a Facebook page and she's got a website as she has shared. We'll also share them in the link below so you know how to get hold of her and how to follow her page. I'm sure there'll be some kind of a toolbox that we will hopefully see the Department of Education using as a standard to empower teachers to support learners that have dyslexia. So thank you for now and good night.